Hey y'all, this is the legendary Sonny G, Sonny with an O, not a U.
And this is your boy Sterling Moody.
And we are Effa Podcast.
Effa Podcast.
And thank you for listening to us. So make sure you tune in to Effa Podcast, a real N-word podcast where we talk about
real N-word stuff.
That's it. So make sure y'all tune in.
Effa Podcast.
Effa Podcast. All right. What it does, good people. I am the legendary Sonny G, Sonny with an O, not a U. I am not a Guyanese fertility specialist. And this is Effa Podcast. Effa Podcast. Presented by Reach One Communications, the Thinking Out Loud Network, and Trap Nerd Entertainment. And if you're interested in being a guest on the show, please email trapnerdent@gmail.com. I'll look through it, decide who's interesting enough to have on the show. Not gonna lie to you, it's a pretty permissive show. So as long as you're not just like sending me emails, saying that I haunt people in their dreams and stuff like that, I'm probably, interested in what you got to say. Even bored housewives have a story. So, feel free to send an email. And before we continue, I'd like to recognize the people, for still all power to the peoples who make this show possible through their contributions, donations, and volunteering. So this week's audio DAP goes out to a real one of one, and that is Blinged Out Cuties. Blinged Out Cuties is a black woman-owned Georgia company, Georgia-based handcrafting company, I guess is the correct word. So like Lil Jon's custom goblets from back in the day, and like even custom coffee cups, shirts. A lot of my trap nerd what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of my trap nerd shirt prototypes have come from Blinged Out Cuties, because they're just like, hey, what do you think about this? And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So between Blinged Out Cuties and Lomo Graphics, Lomo Graphics, a Cincinnati-based graphics company, my trap nerd shirts and designs are always on point. So again, audio DAP goes out to both Blinged Out Cuties and Lomo Graphics this week. Also, I'd like to shout out DragonCon, or as it's called, NerdyGra. That happened last week, and so at the end of the month, I'm going to have shows. Well, so later this month, I'm going to record shows specifically centered on DragonCon cosplayers. So I'm gonna have a whole day of black geeks sitting in the studio and calling in and just talking about what it's like to be a black geek in 2019, 2020, because it's certainly different than it used to be back in 1990 something. It like being a black geek back in the 90s was almost the worst thing you can do. Like, I think the only thing below it was being gay. That was it. And now both of those things are widely accepted. So yeah, So, as a matter of fact, I used to always think it was an insult that, what's his name, Lamar from Revenge of the Nerds was both black and gay. I was like, why did they have to, combine both of them? But now he would be an icon. 2000, matter of fact, 2000, if they remake Revenge of the Nerds in 2020 and beyond, most of the nerds are probably going to have to be like Lamar, multicultural and or flamboyant or whatever, because that's what's going on now, as opposed to 1984 where it was the punchline. Now it's pretty much the premise. So that is, but yeah, so I'm going to have a couple of shows specifically just dedicated to black nerd culture. One of my favorite things when I was at DragonCon, there was this so DragonCon has parties. They have parties and raves and stuff in all of the hotels downtown. And what people do is, if they don't want to go to the rave because they don't want to stand in line or whatever, they just bring a giant Bluetooth speaker and play music in the lobby of the hotels. And so I just happened to be doing safety for one of the parties, making sure nobody was going in through the exit. And I look over and it's a bunch of nerds chanting and jumping up and down. And I listen real carefully. I hear ATL, ATL, ATL. I walk over. I left my post completely. I go and I walk over and I look. And so first off, the majority of the people chanting and jumping up and down are not black. So ATL ho doesn't sound exactly as familiar as I'm used to. There's some enunciation in places that I'm not used to. ATL ho, or ATL horror, just it's but it was cool to see. It was like, oh wow, crunk culture even permeates through nerds. So I am definitely going to see next year if I can just get like a crunk nerd party. And it's gonna be nothing but crunk. We going through all the little Scrappy's hits, Lil Jon's hits, the Young Bloods, all of them. Like I just feel like crunk and nerd should go together more, because nerds have some pent up aggression we just don't get out because we're real meek and timid people. So I feel like if you turn on some crunk or something that's really aggressive, you are going to see just how wild your little timid nerd friend is. Like, I'm actually under the belief that most times when bands destroy hotels, it's usually the little, square dude in the band who probably threw the chair against the window. Like it wasn't the guitar player who's used to all the attention. It's the drum player. Nobody cares about the drum player. So he's just sitting back there, not getting any attention and everything. And then one day I'll go back to the hotel. He has a little something to drink. He might do him a little drugs or whatever. And then boom, all of a sudden, all this wild aggression that you didn't even know he had is throwing the mini bar all over the hotel suite. So this week's topic, not this week's topic, today's topic, this particular show's topic, the Antonio Brown show. And this is funny. I mean, I don't watch football anymore. I'm not gonna say it has to do with the whole cap thing, but it does. It sort of. But I was never a real big football fan anyway to begin with. I started watching football heavily in 2005, and that was only because I was in the Air Force and overseas, and where I was in South Korea was a day ahead. So Sunday football came on Monday mornings, and our chief officer was a real big NFL fan. So Monday mornings, as long as football was on, our workload was really low, and we could watch football. So that made me a football fan. Just it's kind of the same as if you're in the military and any opportunity comes up to not have to be as militant as possible, you will take it. Like in basic training. In basic training, there are atheists who attend Sunday service every Sunday because that gets you out of having to sweep the halls and mop the bathrooms and make the beds and stuff. Some people take kitchen duty for that reason. It's all kinds of things you can do to actually not have to do your job in the military. So football was that for me in 2005. And of course I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. So I naturally hopped on my home team's bandwagon, the Cincinnati Bengals. Some people blame my jumping on at 2005 for their 14-year losing streak, but I don't think I had anything specifically to do with that. I just figured, hey, if I'm going to start liking football, let me start with the team that I was born into the city of. But so Cincinnati Bengals, the Indianapolis Colts, back when Manning was with them, were my team. I came here to Atlanta, and I just got swept up in Falcons mania, which being a Bengals fan is real easy to transition into being a Falcons fan. Like it's not like you're going from one end of the winning losing spectrum to the other. It's about even. Like Bengals and Falcons are basically the same team with different colors. So that was a really easy transition. But I've ever since 2017, I haven't really watched any games. I haven't set aside any time on Sundays or anything like that. So I was really oblivious to a lot of the trade news and a lot of the conduct throughout the year and everything like that. But then here comes Antonio Brown. For the past week, Antonio Brown has been all over my timeline, radio stations, TV, everybody's talking about Antonio Brown. And when I first heard about him a couple years ago, it was just because he was really talented. That, and I have a thing for players who wear jersey 84 because that's the year I was born. So I automatically notice you if you're wearing the number 84 on your jersey. I automatically go, who is that, and look him up and things of that nature. So I kind of had already known a little bit about him, but I didn't really pay too much attention. I mean, plus he was on my least favorite team. Again, I just said I'm from Cincinnati, and he was on the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is my mom's favorite team. So when my mom eventually listens to this show, she's, what's wrong with the Steelers? Everything, mama. Everything. But so Antonio Brown, first he was making waves because he wanted out of his Oakland contract. He was missing practices, and then he was making tweets about how I guess his teammates weren't standing up for him, or nobody was treating him like they wanted him to be a Raider, so he asked to be released. I didn't know that before the asking of being released, that he had asked to be released from the Steelers previously. He had asked to be released from the Steelers. They gave up a couple of draft picks. Sorry. Oakland gave up a couple of draft picks to get him, and a guaranteed $30 million. And what made him mad, what made him stop coming to practices, is that he did something. Actually, hold on. I have a whole timeline of Antonio Brown news. I just had to look up and see exactly what all was going. So, okay, so I'm gonna get into that. Exactly what happened. But I decided to do some research and just in the past 3 years look up Antonio Brown news. And I forgot a lot of these stories. I forgot that I had seen them and been entertained by them or concerned in some cases, but I had forgotten a lot of them. But Antonio Brown has basically been in the news a lot for his behavior in the past 3 years. I guess he's like the new Deion Sanders. Because Deion Sanders was usually in the news for like misinformation. Like, I remember the 90s. They used to just report on Deion Sanders first and then get the facts later. They'd be like, Deion Sanders was someplace where there were gunshots. We think he shot somebody. They'd be like, false alarm. Deion Sanders was someplace where somebody's car backfired. It wasn't even his car. So I think Antonio Brown might be trying to relive that magic, just going about it the wrong way. But here we go. So in the Antonio Brown story, starting off with January 15, 2017, he secretly recorded the team's post-game celebration on Facebook Live in the locker room after the team's 18-16 win over the Chiefs. And Coach Mike Tomlin, who I promise you is nothing but the unclaimed twin brother of I had it. Omar, not Omar Epps. Who is it? Omar Epps? Yes, Mike Tomlin and Omar Epps are the same person. I'm absolutely sure of it. Matter of fact, when's the last time you've seen Omar Epps in a movie? Exactly. You know why? Because he's busy coaching football. So, but Mike Tomlin, I guess, had some remarks about the next week's team, the Patriots, which, as somebody who's only watched football for 12 years, even I know that you do not publicly denounce the Patriots at any time whatsoever. You do not talk about the holy trinity of our Father God Belichick, our Savior, and holy representative Tom Brady. You don't speak ill of them. But apparently that's what Mike Tomlin was doing. And so they threw Mr. Brown up under the bus for exposing what many people in the Northeast already know, which is that, and I apologize, but again, this is Pittsburgh. I'm from Cincinnati. And what people already know is that what goes on in the Schittsburg locker room shows you why they're Schittsburg. So But anyway, okay. So then October 9th, 2018, Antonio faces a pair of lawsuits for an April incident in which he um, so-called damaged his apartment in Florida, his leased apartment in South Florida. And the kicker to this was there was a lawsuit from a family who they don't even live on the property. I think they were visiting, and they were visiting someone, and they were in the pool area, and items came from his apartment onto the pool area, some furniture, a vase, some things. So apparently, and security checked the cameras, and they did determine that yes, when he was going through his little thing, items flew from his apartment down to the pool area, and they almost hit the a 2-year-old little boy, 2 years old at the time, 2-year-old little boy who was down in the pool area. So first off, I learned that the apartment or condo or whatever was $35,000 a month. As soon as I heard that, I completely forgot about the little boy's safety. I completely forgot about the fact that this little boy almost got maimed by falling objects. $35,000 a month. That is somebody's yearly mortgage. If you've got $35,000 a month to pay for an apartment, not even a house. If you've got $35,000 to pay for your own apartment, you can really I'm pretty sure there are $10,000 a month apartments, and you take that other 25 and help some of us poor folks out. Just stuff like that is what makes me really get mad at celebrities and rich people and stuff like that. Because again, $35,000 a month. There's nobody who needs a $35,000 a month apartment. There's nothing I can think of that could possibly. I've lived in all kinds of apartments, and my main complaint is always pests. Right? I always am just like, y'all need to do something about the pests. Roaches, bed bugs, whatever it is they got. They always need to do something about pests. For $35,000. I figure I should be able to get a dog killed at that apartment complex. I should be if the neighbor's dog leaves any kind of mess on my part of the property, I should be able to get someone to kill that dog for $35,000 a month. If you knock on my door and run off, I should be able to have detectives follow you. You know what I'm saying? There's no ding dong dash, which I just learned, by the way. I just learned that white kids call it ding dong dash. One of these days we're gonna have a conversation about the name of games and how they relate to different areas of different people's cause ding dong. First off, I know there's people listening going ding dong dash. What is that? Nigger knocking, or nigga knocking. The reason, and I told the person who told me that it's called ding dong dash, I said the reason we don't call it ding dong dash is because people don't have working doorbells in the hood. So you got to actually knock. You got to actually put in, some fist of wood. So anyway, back to Antonio Brown. He's throwing stuff off the balcony. And a 2-year-old almost gets hit. So the apartment is $35,000 a month. The father of the 2-year-old boy is only seeking $15,000 in damages. The landlord is seeking an additional, I think, $40,000 in damages to the apartment because it violates the contract. But the father of the child is only seeking $15,000 in damages. Now, I don't know whether that's $15,000 is too much because nothing happened to the boy, or $15,000 is lowballing it now that I know that Antonio pays $35,000 for the apartment. I don't know where I stand on this exactly. On one hand, I'm concerned for the little boy's safety, but then on the other hand, I'm like, if that was my kid, black folks, we're I don't want to say we're easy to appease, but Antonio Brown would have thrown something off of the balcony, it almost hit my kid, and he comes down, and I'm like, Black people, we might forget that our kid was in there. Oh my God, Antonio Brown. Push the kid to the side. Move. Oh man, that was you. I should have known the way that the stuff fell down that had something to do with you. It was all like, we might just accept an autograph and a picture and an old pair of shoes or something. So I don't know. I feel like the father should have asked for more. I feel like the father should have at least asked for 1 month's rent. At the very least, he should have asked for 1 month's rent. Like 30, like again, 15,000 sounds high just to, us regular working stiffs, even though it's not even a year's salary, or it's not 15,000 a year is still poverty. Like, it's still below poverty. Like, it's poor. So, but 35,000 a year, that's a whole year of tech support work right there. So I feel like the dad should at least have gotten like a year off of work. He should take whatever he makes a year and sue for that much so that he can take off for a year. Matter of fact, that should be the standard for suing celebrities. Like, if you're not quite sure exactly how much money your case can be solved for, and you don't want to be too greedy, but you don't want to downplay it too much, how much do you make a year? And then sue them for that so you can take a year off. Have a celebrity sponsored year off of responsibility. But so the father's suing, the apartment complex is suing. I remember that. I remember that being in the news, and I didn't know who he was then, but all I could think of is like, because it was broad daylight too. So like, had any of the furniture struck the little boy or something, like, oh my God, he'd have been done. Like, Antonio Brown would be like one of the biggest felons that formerly played for the NFL right now. So yeah, the father should definitely up some of that money, and the landlord should definitely lower some of that rent. There's a huge wage discrepancy in what's being sued for and what's being paid for living. Like, so I'm on the father's side. If anybody knows the father of the 2-year-old who almost got hit last year, tell him to holler at me. And because I think he was being too humble. There's a such thing as being too humble. 15,000 is entirely too humble, sir. You need to stop being so meek. I know the meek will inherit the earth, but stop being so meek and actually ask for what your child almost potentially dying is worth. So back to the Antonio Brown show. A month later, he was ticketed for driving over 100 miles per hour on a Pittsburgh road. So the Pittsburgh road has a speed limit of 45 miles per hour, and he was driving more than 100 miles per hour on that road. The fact that they don't even tell you what the exact mileage per hour that he was driving was lets me know that it had to have been going super fast. And then it says it was in a Porsche, which, as we all know, the minute you get into a Porsche, you don't know what a speed limit is. I mean, we don't all know that, but I just imagine, like, I don't think if I ever get the opportunity to even test drive a Porsche, you're just gonna have to arrest me afterwards. Matter of fact, the Porsche dealer or whoever owns the Porsche should call the police ahead of time and tell them there's going to be a young black male going 155 miles per hour up 85 or on Jimmy Carter, or because I don't see what's the point of getting into a Porsche and then trying to obey traffic. That's so I can understand. I mean, I completely understand him going over 100 in this, it was 10 in the morning. Now, see, that's something I would do at like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, like there's more of a chance of getting caught because no one's on the highway, but there's less of a chance of anyone giving a damn, like that's the thing people don't realize about cops. Like, if you're going to do something, do something in the hours where even they don't give a damn, about 3, 4 in the morning, even cops don't care about most things. They're like, oh, you shot that guy? Listen, get him a Band-Aid and get him out of here. Like, I don't know what that dispute was over, but you ate the last cupcake? Well, then why'd you eat the guy's cupcake? See, that's why you got shot. Get him out of here. But you do stuff at 10 in the morning while people are on their way to work and, all that, then yeah, the cops are gonna mess with you. But yeah, I completely don't blame him for the speeding. Just he should have used a different time of day. He should have sped earlier in the morning. Um, a month after that, at a team practice, in the week leading up to their regular season finale with the Bengals, who they, Brown gets into a dispute, and I stopped reading the article right there. It said Brown gets into dispute, and immediately I'm thinking to myself, it had to be in a dispute with one of the Bengals, because the Bengals fight everybody. I don't know if y'all. One of the reasons that I love my home team is because the Bengals will fight anybody. We do not care if you. We know we lose. We know we lose. We know that our quarterback is so at best. We know that our coach is doing the best he can, but at the same time, we don't need you to remind us. So you might catch a stray helmet or padding to the face or something like that. So when it said Brown gets into dispute, I automatically said, oh, which one of the Bengals? But it wasn't even a Bengal. It was with his quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger. So he got into a dispute with his own quarterback, leading the team to deactivate him for that game. So that shocked me just because, I could have swore that was going to be on Cincinnati. It wasn't. So then February of this year, Brown goes and thanks Steelers fans for the 9 years, says it's time to move on, which is completely a millennial thing, taking your grievances to social media and expecting something to come out of them. I'm not mad at the game, or I'm not mad at the players. Not mad at the players at all. I'm just from a generation where, you couldn't just yell out into the public space and then somebody solve your problem. You had to go and talk to that person. You had to talk to somebody over them. You had to, threaten them by loosening their lug nuts on their car. Just stuff. You had to be real personal and personable. You couldn't just, just tell everybody and then all of a sudden, it gets solved. So, but yeah, he asked for his release. They traded him in March to Oakland for a 3rd round and a 5th round draft pick. The Patriots were going to offer a 1st round draft pick, but the Steelers didn't want to trade to the Patriots, which I completely understand. And so just summing this up, so he went from getting traded to the Raiders, and then so he got in trouble with the Raiders, and now he lost his guaranteed $30 million, which is why he stopped showing up to practices. And then he asked for his release once again on social media from the Raiders, and the New England Patriots, picked him up for a 1-year deal worth $15 million with a $9 million signing bonus. And then right after that, he gets hit with a lawsuit for sexually assaulting his previous personal trainer on 3 occasions between 2017 and 2018. And I'm going to end with this. I don't have any jokes about that. I absolutely refuse to, have any jokes about sexual assault. However, I hope the accusations are false, strictly because my favorite scenario in porn right now is the personal trainer. The personal trainer, oh, look at your muscles. Oh my God. Or, hey, let me help you with this stance. And that is my absolute favorite porno scenario right now. And so I hope that, this doesn't start a chain of events where it's now being heavily monitored, that celebrities aren't trying to have sex with their personal trainers, because then that's going to make the porn industry start revamping their scenarios. And now I got to find something else to look at when my girlfriend's gone to work. And that just disappoints. So that's the Antonio Brown show. That's the most exciting thing that I've had to look at in football in the past couple of years. So I'm going to talk more about this on a later show, but this has been Effa Podcast again. Brought to you by Reach One Communications, Thinking Out Loud, Trap Nerd Entertainment. I have been the legendary Sonny G. You can find me on all social media platforms at Trap Nerd Sonny. and TrapNerdEnt. You can also send an email to trapnerdent@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Y'all be cool like how y'all be cool. Peace. This is the legendary Sonny G, and thank you for tuning in to Effa Podcast. You can also go ahead and follow us at TrapNerdEnt on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can also go to our Patreon if you enjoy what we do and make a donation, patreon.com/TrapNerdEnt, and be on the lookout for future events. Sign up for our email list at trapnerdent@gmail.com. Again, thank you for listening. Y'all be cool like how y'all be cool.